What's going on, you guys? Today I'm going to be playing Fortnite and talking about how life is unfair. Alright, so today I'm going to be talking about how life is unfair while playing some Fortnite. We're going to be talking about this from a few different angles, but mostly the popular ones that people like to think about, considering looks and height, and also, like your personality. You're just some people are just kind of born with like things that make it really hard for them to socialize. So we're gonna be talking about that as well. Let's get right into it. Okay, so I'm gonna be talking about a lot of different stuff in this video, but the one that I need to start off right off the bat is height. Height is one of those things where there's just like a ton of discourse about it on the internet, and it gives people a very like warped sense of like how important it truly is in your day-to-day life. Some people would be saying that the only reason that my phone's, beeping right now is because I'm 6'2". Some people think that it's that important, it's that serious, but I feel like realistically, like in the real world, you only need to be taller than the person that you're literally in front of. Like that's as much as height really matters. Like girls usually want like someone to be taller than them, and then when it comes to men, I don't think it's that big of a deal either. I think that short men have short man syndrome, but that's not from society. Like that's not that's not inherent to him being short. That's something that happens over time, by the way that you bottle up your emotions, by people perhaps mocking you for your height. Short man syndrome isn't like some sort of disorder you get at birth. That happens to you. So I think that people, and while I do understand that it is super difficult for you if you are like super short, I am kind of gonna I'm dispelling the copes right there. But it is super unfair, and people complain a lot about like being a certain height. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's really like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you tell yourself that you're insignificant because of anything, it doesn't matter what it could be. It could be because you're not good at Fortnite. It could be because you're short. It could be because any number of things. If you tell yourself that you're insignificant, you will be insignificant in your life. You will feel insignificant, and insignificant things will happen to you. But if you tell yourself that you're a great person, you might feel insignificant sometimes, but you will feel great other times because that is what you're telling yourself. That's what you're molding into your reality. And I think a lot of people mold their own reality around being short because they say, "Oh, it's just so unfair. It's just so unfair." Life is really unfair. Um, so I feel like it's kind of a cope to act like just because one unfair thing happened to you, that dictates your entire life. Although I mean, it is kind of like, I was a nerd, growing up, so, and also skinny, so I kind of got bullied for like being a nerd. There's other people who got bullied for being short. There's other people who got bullied for being fat. There's other people who got bullied for having freckles. People get made fun of for everything in school. Everyone gets made fun of. You know what I mean? And if you're getting picked on because you're short, that might have like a really adverse effect on you. But that's not necessarily an excuse to go forward in your life, with this narrative where it's life's fault. It's life's fault for doing you wrong, and it's just unfair because you just got dealt a bad hand. It's not life's fault. You are in charge of your own reality. However, it is super. Height is one of those things where it's like, now as much as I wanted to talk about that, it is one of those things where it's like you literally just are born a certain height. Like, I know it sounds kind of stupid coming from someone who is tall and athletic, but like it blows my mind. Like, I mean, that like it's kind of like determined at birth. Like I didn't know that. Like um have a sister, she's 7, and when she was, so like that's like a much younger sibling. So I learned a whole bunch of stuff when she was a baby, just about human beings. I learned that you can determine how tall a kid will be by like what size they are at like a certain age. Like you can determine like their growth plates. Like Is that not like super interesting to people who are like super interested in this stuff? Like, I don't know why that's not talked about more. I mean, maybe people do talk about it more in the like height communities. Like, there's people who are literally dedicated to like finding ways to like becoming taller uh, by like, I don't know, like taking experimental like substances while their growth plates are still open as teenagers. I do not advocate for that. I think that's really dangerous. You shouldn't do that. Because honestly, I don't think it's that serious. Because, when I think of the coolest people, people love to use this, like, the term mog. But, like, if I'm thinking of the person who mogs every single other human being, he's a short king. He's a short king, he owns it. So it's like, I mean, and that's me, who as well. I would like to say I'm a pretty unbiased individual. I mean, obviously I do have some sort of aspect of the male gaze. I think that's another thing. I mean, I gotta do a whole video on the male gaze. But yeah, talking about how life is unfair. Dude, it's crazy that you can just be born with some sort of like mental thing that makes socializing way harder. I feel like there's a lot of people who are disgruntled with society, and they have some form of like autism or like some sort of anxiety disorder. When I grew up, I had anxiety super bad. Like, I know a lot of people say that, but like as a kid, I recall anxiety. Okay, it was serious. Just because I don't really have it as much anymore, just because I self-medicate to make it go away. I still remember what it was like, but it's crazy to imagine that people just are born with that, their entire life, and they kind of just can't change it. Like, that's, I mean, crazy to me. The genetic lottery is insane. Wow, I'm playing against actual bots. Oh, and I still got cracked, so I'm trash. But yeah, a lot of people. What is going on in this game that I'm playing, A lot of people, when they're talking about like male loneliness, I feel like we need to address that. The children we're turning out here are autistic, like as hell. And I'm not using that in a derogatory term, like say what you want about me, myself, but like, why do we have just people who can't socialize? And it's one of those things where it's like, oh man, when I hear people my age socialize, sometimes it's like I'm experiencing pain. I'm experiencing suffering. Hearing certain people have conversations, because like the way they're speaking is so internet brained, so clearly antisocial. And it's crazy to say that I would have that, but I feel like everyone, when you're just like overhearing a conversation, you're just like, what are you saying? Like, why are you saying it like that? You just get like icked out by hearing someone. And I've heard, God, this is gonna be, anyone who's like super into the black pill, this story will sound like super brutal. But I was on the bus one time, and like a dude just like is trying to like talk to a girl, like ask, I don't really remember, but he just like said it so awkwardly and slowly, like, hey, I thought you were, this and the other thing. And she just like ignored him. She just like pretended like he wasn't speaking, and he just kind of stopped talking. And that was super brutal, but also at the same time, like, you have to be clear with people, when you're speaking to them. You have to be concise with your words. And it's crazy that you can just be born a certain way, because of your parents or your genetics or whatever. Like, something in your brain just makes it really hard to do that, And I mean, I'm one of those people who, like, I don't have this as much anymore, but I used to be the kind of person where, like, if I got in a situation where I got like embarrassed or like humiliated, that would ruin my entire week. Like, I would be thinking about that one experience, just like replaying it over in my mind again and again. So just imagining that there's like certain people where like they just have those experiences routinely. God. And I hear stories about it all the time. Like the internet is filled with like stories of people, sharing their experiences, sharing their embarrassing stories. Reddit especially. Like I mean, a guilty pleasure. I don't really do this as much anymore, but I used to watch tons of those like Reddit reading videos, and it's like super. Oh my God, today I fucked up. That's like one of those subreddits. Today I fucked up, and it'll describe all these awkward social situations, and it's like, were you homeschooled by any chance? Like, I mean, like, can I make a guess as to your parents being your professors? And I mean, I'm like making a joke right now, but like I was homeschooled myself, and I feel like that's something that kind of stunted me socially. I like eventually catched up because I was only homeschooled for 2 years, but yeah, just one of those things where I feel like some people. I don't even know how to explain it. I feel like maybe some people's parents don't like give them enough socialization. I think a big thing. So another thing, I'm referencing my little sister again, but it's one of those things that I learned, by like watching them raise her. But you're supposed to talk to your. Oh my God, there's so many supply jobs. Jesus Christ, you're supposed to talk to infants when you're raising them, like you can like understand them and like the things that they're saying are important, so that they actually like try and develop speech. And like that made a lot of sense to me, because if you think about like the average like parent, from like the generation that raised all the people who are adults today, there's a lot of there's like this era of like baby talk. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. And like I feel like that's a new thing that like developed with society. And I feel like it absolutely ruined a generation of people, because now all these parents were like sitting around talking to their newborns like dogs, not even their newborns. You're talking to your kid who's like growing up, talking to them like they're an infant, and infantilizing them, because you talk to them in this certain manner, like they're an animal. Like everyone knows what I'm talking about. I don't even want to do an impression, but it's like, oh, like, oh, really? Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, do you need this? Can I get that for you? Like, I don't even know if I'm explaining it correctly, but like, I don't know. I think that really did it to a lot of people. My parents always talked to me like, okay, here's another thing. Like, if your parents, I was talking about like how life is unfair. If your parents don't raise you properly, it ruins your life. Is kind of what I'm getting at here. Or your parents are like, short or like whatever. It all has to do with like, I don't know, I guess your genetics, I guess, which is the black pill, but like, this is one that is not talked about in the black pill community at all, and I know that for a fact. But like, if your parents like raise you like every time you ask them a question, growing up, they just like don't explain it to you. Like what I mean is like when you ask, and this is something I'm very glad my parents did. If you ask like, oh, like why is it raining? You know what I mean? If your parents are just like, it just does that, like don't ask questions, you know what I mean? They are dooming you. But if you have the parents that like explain to you like, oh, it's raining because, water evaporates and then it goes up in the clouds. That's making you like, I feel like as a child, as a human being, that's raising you to like think critically, because it's encouraging you to actually like ask those questions like again and again. And I feel like because you're doing that, they're treating you like you're more of like a grown up, and then you like are gonna have like more like intelligent thoughts. You're gonna have like more intelligent conversation with adults and people your age. I distinctly remember being 5 years old and like thinking like, I think I'm gonna be like this forever. Like I think I'm like developed now. Like it's crazy. I think it's like what people today would call like developing. What's it called? Like develop or like unlocking consciousness or whatever they're calling it nowadays. Like that was that moment right there. I was 5 years old and I was just like in my dad's room, and he had just showed me like, I think it was like I don't know, something on the computer, like skateboarding or like cartoons that he would show me. He'd show me these like super cool animations. I remember thinking like, I feel like I'm just gonna like keep being into art, like. And I have always been into art and like the same kind of like content and media, um, that I was, you know, being exposed to at that age, and like that I was kind of into. Super into Soul Eater. And I mean, yeah, I've obviously like grown and developed, but I feel like I feel like, you know, there's a lot of kids who, you know, you talk to them when they're 5 and they're just like, you know, you can't really hold a conversation with them, you know, you ask them questions and stuff. They don't really know anything. They're just like, duh, duh, duh. You know, and it's like, dang, like, bro, you're really not raising that kid, like, properly. Like, do better at raising your kid, yo. And it's like, kind of, I don't know. To me, it's sad. To me, it's sad because it's like, that's just like kind of all kids now. I want high ground. Oh, I didn't get it though. Anyway. Oh, do I have to actually clutch up? Why am I late game? I didn't think I would make it here. But yeah, that kind of concludes my video. I'll try and finish the match, but I mean, shoot, eyesight. That's another one. Heyo, I wear glasses. Think I chose that? Think I wanted to be called Four Eyes? No, I didn't. Okay. So give me some credit on that. And so, you know, I'm not, you know, a lot of people say that like, oh, a lot of people will say that if you have like good, like if you have like relationships or whatever, or like that's all because of like your height and your looks, you know, at birth. But I feel like this video is a pretty like accurate assessment of how much, you know, your genetics really affect you, you know. I feel like the ones that people talk about are kind of overvalued, and what I talked about is a little bit undervalued. Hopefully this gave you guys a new perspective. And ooh, what the heck? Why am I the Flash, yo? I feel like it glitched. I feel like this item's not supposed to last this long or be this powerful. Ah. Oh shit! Okay, I won the match. Okay, well that is a good end of the video. Hit the subscribe button if you want to see more videos of me talking. Like the video if you liked hearing me talk. Comment if you have any similar experiences or if you have any feelings about me talking about how life is unfair. And peace. Okay, there's actually one more thing that I had to add. Also, you can just have a tiny, tiny wee-wee. And that's like something that I think about all the time, is like how much your manhood like affects your personality and your confidence levels. You know what I mean? When I measured my schlong when I was like in high school, you know what I mean? It was a certain size. I did not measure it again after high school. You know, it never occurred to me that I could have grown at all. But I guess that, you know, working out can do that. And when I realized I was an extra inch, that actually gave me like a lot of like self-confidence, and it like made me like just feel better just like in daily life, you know what I mean, after learning that. So that was something, you know, that like was really eye-opening, because I was like, oh my god, can I imagine if instead I had realized that the opposite had happened and my dick had gotten shorter, how stressful that would be. So that is another one that I wanted to add in there at the very end, because just like, you know, that's kind of, I mean, that's kind of important. And, you know, shout out all the kings out there, you know. But I will say I saw this TikTok video, and it was like some sort of meme that involved a girl having a list of all the guys that she had slept with on her phone, and she had listed the one guy. She had listed most interactions as a 7 out of 10, and she had listed the one guy who had the minuscule writing for how long his wee-wee was. he was also a 7 out of 10. So that is proof right there, you know, that you can do a good job. If you wanted a confidence boost right there, you know, you still please a woman. You don't need to worry about that. That comes down to integrity and grit and stamina, which have nothing to do with the length, but still it still really affects your confidence. Thought I should bring it up in a video where I'm talking about how life is unfair, or else people would comment that down below. You can also comment down below something else that I probably missed. I probably missed something if I'm coming back and saying an extra one. So yeah, that is now the real end of the video, but you should also still like and subscribe and do all that fun stuff. Press those buttons for me. Come on, help me out.